As the Avatar gang are sneaking through the Fire Nation, trying to save the world, Toph, the blind earthbender, uses the fact that her disability essentially gives her superpowers to help the local population. Just kidding, she starts scamming people. When she starts bringing home obscene amounts of food and money that she fleeced off the local Fire Nation population, the group's mother figure, Katara, gets upset. She states that if they keep scamming people, something bad will happen. Ignoring her warnings, Toph continues her scams, and eventually there's a reward for her capture. Katara is furious and won't allow Toph to do any more scams. But Toph hates how Katara is trying to tell her what to do and refuses to listen. Aang and Sokka are trying to bring them together, but nothing is working.
I know this is from you, Sokka. Toph can't write.
Until Sokka takes Toph aside and levels with her.
You brought me out here to tell me your sister's not as annoying as I make her out to be.
But Sokka agrees.
I don't know how you can deal with it.
But then Sokka throws her a curveball.
Actually, in a way, I rely on it.
When our mom died, that was the hardest time in my life.
Katara stepped up and took on so much responsibility. She helped fill the void that was left by our mom.
Toph realizes that Katara cares more about her than her own mother did, and lets go of that anger. At the same time, Katara overheard the whole thing and was deeply moved as well. They were able to see the point of view of the other person, and they each decided to make amends.
Hi, Toph. I wanna... Katara, stop. You don't need to apologize. I was the one being stupid.
They finally understood the motivations of one another and realized that they were on the same team, which meant a lot more than this little disagreement. Do you have someone you're arguing with that you can't seem to see eye to eye with? If you're interacting with people, which you should be, chances are you're gonna run into disagreements. And if you're not having disagreements, it means that you're not speaking your truth, which is more dangerous than disagreement. Disagreement is a natural part of society, and oftentimes it's what's required for us to grow. But you need to know how to disagree productively and mend any damage. One of the most valuable things you can do in a disagreement is give yourself a buffer period. Athenodorus, the Stoic advisor to Rome's first emperor and history's most influential person, Augustus, once advised his young charge, whenever you feel yourself getting angry, don't say or do anything until you've repeated the 24 letters of the alphabet to yourself. In Latin, I guess they only had 24 letters in their alphabet. Since time immemorial, people have been making mistakes on account of high emotions. That's why it's immensely important to give yourself a buffer period before you take any action or give any responses. Ideally, you have longer than the time it takes to recite the alphabet. Let yourself sleep on it if you can. Take as much time as you possibly can. In that buffer period, try your best to play devil's advocate for yourself and see things from the other person's point of view. However improbable, actually make a true effort to see what they may be going through to take those actions or come to those conclusions. Once you're calm, you can address the situation. But I assure you, nothing will get better by you reacting emotionally. It's why scammers, manipulators, the police even, try to overwhelm you and get you acting emotionally. They know that if you're emotional, you're more likely to make mistakes. Do not fall into this trap. When you're disagreeing with another person, also recognize who the real enemy is. Abraham Lincoln once said, "A house divided against itself cannot stand." Right now, as a society, we are a house divided. Toph and Katara had to recognize that they were on the same team. If they hadn't made up, they could very well have been overcome by the true enemy and lost the war. In your life, you could be having a family or a work disagreement. If it's political, you may have irreconcilable issues with someone who just has the opposite political belief as you. If that's the case, I invite you to recognize that both the left and the right are two wings of the same eagle, and the head of that eagle is evil. The person you're having a disagreement with isn't your enemy, I assure you. More than likely, one or both of you have been captured by the media and state-sponsored propaganda. Oh, yeah, maybe them, for sure. It couldn't be me though. No, you as well. You know how many people I talk to that say that CNN can't be trusted, which I completely agree with, but then they say that's why we watch Fox News. It's shocking how people aren't able to see the cognitive dissonance here. A sad part about humanity is that we seem to need an enemy to fight against. I really wish that we didn't, but we don't live in Plato Republic. We live here, where we do. So we need to pick an enemy. That enemy that you're trying to conquer could be the goal that you're pursuing. If you're at work, that should be whatever is the goal of the organization. If your conflict is within your family, the goal should be to organize it in a way that love is the default emotion. Those are kind of esoteric enemies, but if you need to pick a specific enemy to aim at, I'd say recognize the power structures who are tearing the people apart in society. It's not actually the two forces on the side of race, gender, sexuality that's going to be your issue. Believe me there. It's not one person on the opposing team. There's a full system made up entirely of evil people. Now, none of this is easy, and in order to do this, you really need to be the bigger person. You may wonder why you have to apologize when it was them who did wrong, and I get it, but sometimes we need to put our pride aside and mend the situation, as it's better than having to live life uncomfortable or angry. Realize that you and this other person are on the same team, see things from their point of view, and at the very least, be cordial as you work towards whatever goal you have. Life is too short to have emotional disagreements and hatred with one another, especially if it's someone in your family, or if it's in your workplace where you spend 40 hours a week. That's a massive part of your life, and it literally kills your soul if you don't enjoy the people that you're there with. The importance of this cannot be overstated. I just made up with one of my best friends after 4 years of being estranged. We both recognize now that it's a damn shame that we let so much time pass. Mend your relationships and don't let your pride get in the way. Trust me.